Hello and welcome to Coffee Time with Kauffman. We are here with Petere Miner, the founder of and Chief Executive Officer of CoLoadX Corporation. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Maria.
So nice to have you together. You and I connected via LinkedIn, and it was like instant girlfriend time, right?
Absolutely. It's rare to meet another female engineer. I'm just saying.
Yes. And when we did, we certainly had a great conversation about how much fun it is to live our lives.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about who you are and how you got to be where you are today.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, so I'm a kid of the Midwest and engineering educated in the Midwest, got a job in the tech industry working for Hewlett Packard. And that was, anyway, so sort of a dream come true. That was my first dream come true was to get a job working for HP. And then spent the bulk of my career in Silicon Valley being a geek and being with other geeks that built this amazing technology world that we live in. And and then I as well then decided that I was so passionate about the application of technology. I mean, to me that's what it's all about. It's tech's great, putting it to use, and so that's what I spent. Then the other part of my career has been out there taking technology and making it real. And my latest ventures have all been around the world of supply chain, which if I would have talked to you about that a year ago, everyone would have said, what? But now everybody knows what supply chain is. So being able to apply technology, digitization, and all this fun stuff around supply chain and getting stuff shipped. And it's been again, that's my second dream come true, to be able to do that now. So that's my current startup is very much focused on supply chain and tech and freight.
Well, first of all, I love to hear you talk about the dreams come true, because I'm all about turning dreams into goals and making those a reality. But help me understand, way back before you got to Hewlett Packard, how did that dream even come about?
So let's see. I have a grandmother who was she was the first woman to pass the bar in the state of Minnesota. And so my mother wasn't professionally accomplished, but she had a real spirit about her. And I think the combination of those two, for me, I started off with this idea that whatever I want to do, I should just do it. So it wasn't like there's certain things you can do, certain things you can't do. It was really just do what you love to do. And both of them, one as a role model and one in how I was raised, gave me that foundation. So I was a tomboy. I was into tech. I was always the one that would fix the vacuum cleaner when it broke down. And it was like, that was just how I was. I love fixing things, putting things together, and and awesome.
Yeah. So you're fixing vacuum clean. Like, when did it start? That's awesome, by the way.
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess I was always, I loved getting model plastic model stuff, model airplanes or model whatever with the glue and putting the pieces together. I think that's my first memories of putting stuff together. And then that led to like fixing things.
Did you have siblings? Can I ask if you had siblings?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm the oldest of 5. Yeah.
Okay. And a mix of boys and girls?
Yeah. Well, there's 4 girls and 1 boy.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
My brother, he's a good kid. he learned well how to be with women. Yes.
Cool. So it all started with some fixing and modeling, just around the house. And then, those are more mechanical.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then I always really did well in math. And again, the way that I approached that is it was not like a big deal for me. I remember I babysat some people who lived behind us at one point, and they were both math teachers. Both the husband and wife were math teachers, and they would tutor me from time to time. And again, I just I didn't think about it, anything about it. Now that I look back, I realized that that was kind of unusual for a woman to be a math teacher in I think she was in junior high or grade school. I'm not sure, but yeah. So I just had this sort of natural aptitude towards math, and culturally and I could see it, but I just didn't let it in. There's a stigma around at that time for girls around math, that there was like a fear or like a phobia or something about, oh, I'm not good at math. And somehow I was able to just let that not sink in, and just went with that. And that's so when I first applied to colleges, I'm also very interested in the history of humans and human evolution. And so I actually originally applied to I was interested in anthropology. And that's
Whoa.
how I started at Northern Illinois University. And then about, I don't know, a year into it, I realized, well, I was already taking calculus, so I had advanced into calculus in my freshman year, and began to realize that I had a strong interest in math. And then yeah, and then it was at some point, one of my dear roommates, when I was telling her I was kind of bored with what I was studying around anthropology, she and I was beginning to think about this idea of engineering, and she sort of dared me to try it. So that's when I started to. They didn't have an engineering school at the college I was at the time, so then I made the commitment and figured out what other universities in Illinois had an engineering program, and applied to them. So yeah.
That is super fun. So it kind of all started on a dare
It
from
did.
another.
Oh, it's a dare. Well, the other dare too. The other dare was I was taking physics at that university, and again, when I was beginning to think about going into engineering, I had an uncle who was a quote engineer. He was a non-degreed engineer, mechanical engineer, working for Elliott. And so I shadowed him for a day to understand what it was like to be an engineer. But that was like, pushing paperwork around and already. But so then I decided to talk to my physics professor about this idea. And this was where another dare came out. And yes, it did happen. So I said, look, I'm interested in becoming an engineer, and I'm applying to these universities. And he looked at me very solemnly, and he said, girls can't be engineers. You need to consider teaching.
Oh, okay. That's not where I thought that was going to go. I thought he was going to dare you, but no,
Well, that was the dare. That was the dare. Like, what?
The
You're gonna tell
subliminal.
me I can't be an engineer because I'm a girl? Oh yeah. I'm gonna prove you wrong. Yeah.
Yes. I love it. So it was a double dare and somewhere in the middle of college. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
too, as a young girl, I kind of knew that math was my thing. It was kind of like the only thing I had. So I had to excel at that. But I'll say, as I was entering those college years, I did have a differential aptitude test in 10th grade that kind of helped me. I had no idea what engineering was, but there was something there where I was like, oh yeah, being the only girl, having opportunity to play with the boys. Here we go.
There you go. That's a good motivation.
Right. So it's mid college and you're not at an engineering college. Take us through the steps.
Oh, well, then I found 5 or 6 different universities that had engineering, and actually went to each one. So I wanted to do a college tour of each campus. So that helped a lot. And then when I went there, I could then get a feel for the campus and so forth. And then I got accepted into several universities and chose the University of Illinois. I don't know why. I guess I thought it was a better program. I don't even know if I knew what I was looking for, but it turns out it was a great choice because it's one of the stronger engineering programs in the country, and it turns out that was a great way to get great catalyst for the rest of my career. But yeah.
So awesome. So it sounds like life has been an adventure for you. Fixing vacuum cleaners, proven fit. How did you do on the physics class with that physics
Oh
professor.
yeah, that I always did pretty good in physics. So physics, math were really good. Yeah, yeah, and some of the sort of math oriented engineering classes were good too. Yeah.
Cool. So you're on this adventure, and then eventually the possibility of something with Hewlett Packard comes up.
Yeah. So my degree is in electrical engineering, and my peers, all the guys that were in WE school with me, there's this like this constant quest to get a job at HP, and everybody wanted, that was like the ultimate uh, test. Yes, the ultimate proof that you were you could cut the mustard was to get a job offer from HP. So thankfully it was one of my last interviews, and I talked to a lot of companies on campus at the time with campus interview, and it was a time when there was a strong interest in getting more women into engineering roles in companies. So there was a lot of interest, but it was, even my sniff test back then was, it felt a little bit more like they were looking for someone they could like hang on a tree on the outside of the building so that they could say, hey, here's an engineer. And then by the time I got to the HP interview on campus, I ended up talking to a recruiter who was good friends with one of my favorite professors at the university, Professor Van Valkenburg. And that was the one class I aced, and I found it super easy. It was linear amplifiers. And because my professor and this campus recruiter were good friends, that's really what we talked about, was Professor Van Valkenburg and life at U of I, and 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 that was it. That was amazing to me. It wasn't so much about my engineering prowess, but it was about, particularly for HP, it was about, is this the kind of person we want at the company? And that really appealed to me. So then I went on a campus interview, and then I went on the on-site interview, flying from Illinois to California, thinking, okay, this is cool. I'm gonna like this. And then so then spent a day interviewing and various different technical and non-technical discussions and so forth. And I'm confident enough of myself at that point that I got through all the interviews, and at the end of the day, my to be hiring manager sat me down, and this was I guess the next stare that I got, and he said, well, yeah. So it was good interviews, good discussions, and yeah, we're just trying to decide if this is the best opportunity for you. And I said, out of body experience, and I said, well, are you afraid to hire me because I'm a woman?
Yes, that is so bold. Oh my gosh, you just called it right out.
And he said, nothing to do with that. And of course, I never felt that way during the interviews. I just felt like they were like, well, is she good enough as an engineer? So that was good. And so some little brave part of me just decided to have that little voice right at the right moment. And then I got the offer. And I tell you, Dick Tepfer, my boss, to this day, he's well into his 80s, and he loves and adores me, and he loves to hold me up and show everybody how great I am and what I've done. And I did really well for him. I was a really strong engineer in the group. I was very highly ranked and all that good stuff, and proved that he's so proud of the fact that he made a good decision by hiring me.
Yeah, of course. How much fun. I mean, talk about fun. It's like all of these things just peel away, those moments just to step into something natural. So I like to see those moments too, is that you're kind of helping each other, because he's probably struggling, he doesn't know, who knows what his experiences are. And there's probably a sense too that he wants to make it work. So he was, flexible enough to say something. You were bold enough to walk through the door.
That's a great perspective.
Yeah. Well, whenever I think about all the fun that I have in engineering, and I listen to you talk, of course, whenever I tell my own stories, it does some of those can be very contentious, and it may not always feel like fun in those moments. But when you really look back on these things, it's like, man, I had the opportunity. I was in the room. I took the chance.
Right on. Yeah, right on. Upon reflection, I agree with you there. In the moment, you just like, you got hands on the steering wheel and drive it in.
Here I come.
Yeah.
Right. And at some point, whenever we have those dreams, there was something probably inside you that was just kind of driving that bus. So cool. So then obviously you get the job, you have those opportunities to deliver and learn, and you're getting paid to travel, fun. Tell us about some of the fun that you're having then in those times. Do you remember?
Well, yeah, let's see. I'm gonna really date myself, but we had one computer that we shared in the back of the department. So all the engineers, we shared one computer, and it was an HP, I don't know, 2100 or something, some data terminal. And it was some crude word processing tool, so we could create our documents and so forth. Anyway, so it was really, for me, that so much of the fun was to be there at the beginning of the computing technology. HP was into it at that point, and to just anyway, be part of the, to me, it was just fun to be part of the evolution of crude typing up something that gets printed out on a piece of paper to completely integrated smartphones that you can hold in the palm of your hand that can tell you what to do and how to live your life. I mean, to
right?
Me,
when you fast forward it, it's like, wow, we had a lot of patience back then, didn't we?
Yeah, right. Operating at 300 baud rate. Yeah. So yeah. So the other thing that, for me personally, part of what is so important for me about being a human and being in this world, particularly as an engineer, is there's an element of leadership that's always part of it. Either you're a role model, or for me, it meant being a manager and being able to provide direction to others and inspire others to do their jobs and excel and do good things. So that was another part of what was really profound for me, particularly at HP, and the culture that HP had, that Hewlett and Packard brought, the spirit of do the right thing and realize that the people that work for you are part of an ecosystem and they're important and valued, and as well what you do, the community is valued, and just having that whole foundation around leadership, not only in how you lead as a manager of people, as you lead and provide products and services to the community and to your customers.
Well, that's really, really important. Learning opportunities. Are you saying that Hewlett Packard helped you learn those things, or were you just naturally growing into those leadership roles? Help me understand that.
Hard to say.
Yeah, because I didn't work for a large company until later in my career, and those were the things that I knew that I was hungry for. I didn't always have a lot of good people, a lot of good role models, whoever they were, to really set a great example for me. So I struggled with that.
Very interesting. So maybe it was a lot of the company that the company has. I mean, I got a job as a manager pretty quickly. Within 2 or 3 years, I got a position as a manager, and there's lots of training. And I mean, HP had its own culture thing. There's something they called MBWA, management by wandering around. And it would be on your performance evaluation as a manager. How much time did you spend? Very engineering, like quantify how much time did you spend? And it was something that Hewlett and Packard were famous for. They love to go out to all the divisions around the company and just spend time, sit down with the engineers, the people that were working on the line, and find out, well, what's going on. How's your daughter doing? Did she have the baby? There was this whole that was just one example of this HP culture that you either taught by example or classes. I mean, yeah. So, and then there's a lot of classes about how to manage people and how to represent HP culture as you're managing. They have a lot of classes on uh, critical thinking and analysis. And being the math person, that's actually the part that I really love. So particularly when you're in supply chain operations, it's all about like, what's the data about what's going on, and then how do we do something with the data? So,
Awesome. Yeah. So with supply chain, help us understand. You are the founder and CEO of a corporation doing cutting edge stuff, certainly with supply chain management. We're all feeling the effects of a global pandemic and what happens when things are slightly crippled around the globe. Fast forward and help us understand how you got to sit in the seat that you are now.
all right. Well, so let me fast backward just a bit to tell the story about how I got into this whole like space so deeply, supply chain space. I mean, so there was about midway in my career at HP, I was offered a position as a distribution manager. So that meant I ran a warehouse. Now, at first I thought, okay, what about being the glamorous production manager or running the R&D facility warehouse? Okay, all right, okay. And when I got into it, I loved the people that were part of it. So these are just the salt of the earth people that are paid the lowest amount of money in the company, that come in honestly every day, drive around forklifts and put products on shelves and take them off and make sure that everything's clean and organized and working properly. So it's like a panacea for an engineer, because it's all about organizing and planning and process, and yet it's fraught with inefficiencies and unpredictability. And so I found that I really loved being in that environment and bringing order to a warehouse, this sort of basic idea of getting stuff and getting it shipped. And what I also totally fell in love with was this idea that my guys, the lowest paid people in the company, were the last ones to touch the product before it got to the customer. I mean, just to be that close to the customer experience, have that much influence over how the customer perceived our products, was so cool. I mean, I didn't have to be in sales and marketing. I could just be right there, right before they got it.
Oh, Peter, I love it. I love it on so many levels. First of all, I love that you said that you fell in love with this, right? That's so powerful. And then it's so powerful to understand that you have this opportunity that may not have seemed so glamorous, but you're open. Even whenever you talk about it, it sounds like, hey, I had to have a certain level of open-mindedness to the opportunity. And then when you got it, you really found the gold. Many different parts of all the gold that probably was coming from that opportunity at the time. And then it sounds like, obviously, then all of those things and those experiences, you're learning leadership from HP that is very on the human aspect. You're, walking around, getting to know people and what they're doing. Now you're also having this experience in a warehouse and understanding just the importance of that last person who touches and has that customer experience. How has that informed what you do right now?
All right, so that made me fall in love with something that's called logistics. And so it turns out that there's a whole community of people at HP at the time that was very it was like an open source network. So around HP, every logistics manager, they would meet once a year, they would collaborate, they would share best practices, they would leverage the company in terms of the service providers and so forth. So there was this really great community that was very embracing. And as well, what I also learned was that it's really inefficient, and it's not very digital right now, that world by definition. And that set me on a mission then when I was still at HP, to get involved with bringing technology into logistics and supply chain. And then eventually I was at my last job at HP, I was responsible for logistics procurement for the company. So I had like $1 billion in freight that I was responsible for acquiring between air and ocean and trucking and everything in between. And I was realizing that the logistics providers, the logistics community is really important to a company like HP. We had to outsource that capability to these companies. We had to trust them. We had to put all of our trust of getting our goods delivered to our customers in their hands. And yet they didn't have a lot of digital tools available to them. And so when I left HP, I took one half step, and then I took a full step with some startups after that are just deeply embedded in providing digital service, digital tools, digital functionality to logistics providers. And that's how I got to CoLoadX. I could tell you more about CoLoadX if that's the next piece.
Well, even along the way, so I'm kind of interested because I think too, especially if there's young women that are listening and trying to find their way, and maybe they're also maybe in an opportunity that might not look like that ideal image of, maybe where they wanted to go. Just, from looking back and staying open-minded about these opportunities, because a couple of things, if I can highlight, right? So you're noticing inefficiencies. I've heard you say that a couple of times. I think there too is some skills. So where there's opportunities in these roles, there's also opportunities to kind of improve a skill set. Are you knowing that you're kind of having those skill sets? What would you offer as advice for people to kind of help? A lot of times my clients, when they come to me, it's fascinating, maybe because of all the influences, wherever they come from, that they kind of downplay some of their intelligences. So did you know that you were that great? Like, did you know, I mean, along the way, you had to know you were having fun. Was there something with the fun and these massive skills that you have to kind of help you along the way?
Well, so now this is where the HP is going to come out of me, because I don't it's so much about, not so much who I am. It's what I was able to do. Let's see. It's for me, it's very, very much focused on, let's get some change to happen. And change to me is always a good change to happen. And pulling the skills that I have, also for me, it's also a lot about getting the best out of people around me to make it happen, because I know that I can't do it on my own. So how do I orchestrate this thing so that we're all putting our energy in the one direction to get this ultimate outcome out of it.
Awesome. So, and that speaks a lot to leadership.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the one thing I will say, that triggers a thought as you asked me the question, is I also realized that I was really different from everybody around me, right?
Yes.
So I guess in terms of like skills and so forth, I always had a sense that whoever I am is really different from everybody around me. So I see that. Okay, so I'm gonna figure out a way to still like for me, I'm all about connectivity. I see how things come together, and I know that's not the way the logistics world typically looks at things. Engineering world, not the investor community, the startup world, that typically a lot more linear in how they think about things. And I know that part of who I am, and maybe my style as a woman, I tend to look at the connectivity in all things. So I would have this awareness that I have this superpower, and it's not really understood or appreciated, or maybe even, I don't know, valued at all. And yet I just inherently know that's the juice that's going to make this thing happen. So,
was it fun?
It was always fun to me, because if I do what I love to do, if I be who I am, I have so much fun. I lose track of time. Absolutely.
Awesome. Right? Yeah. And so just looking back too, it was kind of like another one of those things where, I didn't realize how much fun I was having along the way. Cause sometimes it didn't, I wouldn't have called it that way, but it's like, I was being being yourself is fun.
Exactly.
Cool. So now you are in this, I would say, a cutting edge on supply chain management, also doing some similar things whenever you talk about seeing the opportunity for change, and definitely stepping obviously into a leader, the ultimate leadership role. How much fun are you having right now?
Oh, I am having a complete and utter blast right now. So totally drinking from a fire hose. So the other thing that happens when you start a company is I I like to build up this thing that I call psychic energy around the company. So so it's going to take a village to make this happen. So my current company is an online marketplace for freight, and we're also going to begin to add visibility on top of that, so that when you book some freight on a marketplace, then you can also be able to track your shipment. It all sounds pretty easy and straightforward, and yet there's a lot of moving parts to get it all connected together. I'm not inventing anything, but I'm putting a lot of the parts together to make it happen. And what's starting to happen is to make this work, I need some great software functionality that I can either write it myself or have my developers write it, or I can partner with somebody who's done a great job already of building that. So that's starting to really happen. So I'm finding all sorts of companies on both the front end and the back end. So getting the user experience with the marketplace, and then on the back end, making it easier for sellers. So I'm finding all sorts of partners that are like, yeah, I could help you with that. I could do that. And then then there's a hardware piece of it too. So I get to be, my propeller head is spinning away as I'm talking to device companies and figuring out how to send data to satellites and all sorts of fun, cool stuff like that. And again, just getting all the players excited about how they can play a role in this vision. And then talking to customers about it is kind of fun, and potential customers, because they're like, oh, wait, I can just book freight this way and then I can see where it is. They're like in tears. Wow, how cool. So and having them like believe in it and see it, and providing a customer providing their life perspective. But, well, could you also add this or make that part of it? And then ultimately, when you're starting a company, you either can generate your own revenues and build the company that way, or you get investors. And so that's been a big kind of a new thing for me now, is to really get into the role of raising money and then selling, I guess, your idea to investors, and then looking for the right investors who have the same kind of psyche that you do, that believe in the vision and the future, and then want to be part of it financially, but also then again, this whole community that you build around the startup, which is from investors to customers to partners who all want to put their energy into making this thing come together.
I love to talk about community. I love to talk about the psychic energy. Like, that's cool, because it's a community of everything. I'm sure you know. On the networking side, and that place where you have to understand that you're not going to be able to get it all done, and you're going to have to rely on other people. Ooh, any words of advice there? Because at times that was being a very introverted person, and in my heavy engineering times where it was very, very brain focused, and I was creating the code, and I could get in my own box and not understand even that I was part of the solution, and then to step out of that is a real transition, so what can you say about networking and how important that is on many levels?
Wow. Right. For engineers, it's like, it's table stakes, right? It's our lifeline. Like, you can come up with the best engineering idea, but if you can't convince somebody it's a good idea, forget it. It's just wasted. So to me, that's just a fundamental. And for engineers, we always have to learn that skill. It's something that we're very focused on problem solving and coming up with a solution. And we learn how to network with others and communicate with others so that we can get that thing implemented. So it's just, we learn how to speak, we learn how to speak in a language people can understand, which is not always easy if you talk to a really deep in engineering person. But so and I guess for me, and it's probably more my nature, I just I guess the way I look at it is not that I need to have others. To me, I look at it like that's the only way I'm going to make this happen is through my network of partners and contacts and advisors and mentors and whoever's part of this whole cacophony of resources
of change
around.
management, right?
Mhm.
Of just
Right.
and
Right.
creativity and innovation. Yeah, everything that
Right.
comes along with that.
Right.
Any advice too? Like I know, I have been in situations where it was sometimes, my idea, it was very, very different because maybe it was coming from a woman, maybe it was, that strange to other people. Any advice on how to, and it is all about selling. I think even in the end, when you have an idea, even for change, regardless of where you are, you're pitching that idea and creating a sense of leadership to create and drive that change. Any lessons and fun adventures on those?
Okay,
fronts?
there we go. Fun. Okay, so so okay, it's simple. It's simple. You float the balloon and you practice it. So okay, and it took me a while to allow myself the fun of doing that. So to me, so I float the balloon. So if I've got an idea, rather than like tidying up the package, making sure the tape's proper, the bow is proper, I'll like take the ugly box, the stuff, not even put it, just the thing inside the box, and I'll take it to show it to somebody and say, what do you think? And so, and give me some feedback. Help me, like, how would you just, so you float the balloon, you get it out there, you get it socialized a bit so that when it gets heard, and even if you can socialize it, I advise this all the time to people. If you can socialize this with somebody who's in the decision-making pool, then wow, that's super powerful when it comes time to actually like present it. So one is float the balloon, and then the other is practice. And this is again something else that I've learned over the years is the value of like practicing your pitch, just having it so it's kind of memorized in your mind, just getting it enough deep into your brain cells and the synapses that it falls off your tongue really naturally. And that just comes from practice, just saying it enough times that it feels natural.
I love how you tie in science into science. It's like, yes, we kind of, on some level, it's kind of interesting to know the science behind our brain and how it works, because sometimes it could be not our advocate, right? And putting those simple practices into place is like, oh, I'm going to trick my own brain into making this thing work. That's
right
fun.
Yes. It's fun. It's a miracle. You're like, whoa, look at that. What I said was going to happen actually happened. Woo-hoo.
Celebration. Awesome. What does the future of women's leadership look like?
Oh, so wow. It's so timely, that question. As I've seen this beginning of a tsunami of change beginning to happen, and I see it in the Olympics and the Super Bowl, believe it or not. So what I've been noticing, it maybe came out of the Me Too movement, the permission to speak about what doesn't feel right without judging it. So having a voice. And then what I've been beginning to notice is that there's more of a including feelings and emotions and the other side of being a human. So I really noticed with the Olympics and that the gymnast who
Simone Biles, the Summer
Olympics?
Yeah,
right, who talked about the stress of being an Olympian athlete and then needing help, needing psychiatric help to just get through it, and just letting that be real okay. And now I'm starting to see men do that. Like I saw this even at the Super Bowl, there are men shown tears streaming down their face who were finally able to just express their emotions of joy and sadness, whatever. So, and I mention that because I think the feminine leadership aspect of it is is this bringing it's less about the what, and it's also about the how. And so the how means you bring the whole person in, you let that completeness happen, because in my opinion, when we can be complete and whole, we can actually do much better things than when we're just trying to be a certain way or do a certain thing.
Yeah, agreed. And thank you for the insights, because I think it is, we kind of have to get over this confrontational phase where we spend a lot of energy just kind of almost fighting it, where it could be creative and just more curious.
That's great. I like that. I'm going to remember that.
Yeah, right? It's all super fun. So in closing, is there any last minute advice that you would leave for anyone, regardless of who they are, where they are, what their age is? Any insights and advice to help us have fun with whatever we're doing and pave a new way for creativity and innovation?
Well, I'll share an insight from my mother, who was she was somebody who they had struggles in life, and yet realized at a point in her life how precious life is. And she said something to me that I'm going to share, and a quote. So she said to me at one point, when she was diagnosed with a terminal cancer, she said to me with these bright blue eyes, she said, "You know, Peter, life is not a dress rehearsal." So it's this idea that when this is the life we got, and be in it, love it, enjoy it for what it is. There's no like hoping it'll be something different or better. It is what it is, and it's actually kind of cool. And just allowing yourself to just enjoy that and be in that. And so that, and then she had this great quote that I keep with me, so I see it every day. And she said, this is a quote that she got: "When you die, God and the angels will hold you accountable for all the pleasures you were allowed in life that you denied yourself."
Peter, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being fun, for allowing us to have a fun conversation about women in engineering. Thank you so much for bringing your mother into the conversation and the beautiful words that obviously go with you everywhere you go. That is priceless. I really appreciate your time and being on the call to be able to talk about how much fun being a woman in engineering is. I'm going to share one more thing before I hit the stop button. And I just want to share with you and with anyone who listens that I love stainless steel control panels.
Yay!
I can't tell many people that, but I knew that you would appreciate it.
Right on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being
You're
with
welcome.
us.